Hello, guys. Welcome to this new edition of Mind Podcast. This is Aadit Kapadia, and joining me together is our Mind Podcast returning champion, columnist, analyst, podcaster of India Rising Podcast, and our good friend Mohal Joshi. Hi, Mohal. How are you doing?
Hey Adit, always good to be back on your podcast.
Absolutely. And it's great to have you here. So, what a crazy 2 weeks it's been.
Hmm.
I unfortunately I was hoping to record this last week, but it's been a while. 2 weeks, Mr. Prime Minister Modi's trip to Washington D.C. Lots of Indian political updates. Everything is that's happening in Maharashtra. All sorts of things happening. On domestic side there on the US side there are various Supreme Court judgments and stuff that we're not going to discuss that on this podcast because I think that's a separate podcast just for everything that the US Supreme Court has had to say in a week. But I want to talk about that. And even in the field of sport, India's Indian cricket team and the Ashes is going on, the controversy and stuff. So lots to unpack in the next 40-45 minutes. But before we get into the insanity that's the news this week, quick opinions on the Maharashtra political crisis and what is happening. What do you think? I mean, latest we know that Ajit Pawar, Praful Patel, Chhagan Bhujbal, and Sunil Tatkare and others have joined. The eight cabinet ministers have taken oath, along with Ajit Pawar, who is back again as the deputy CM, this time supporting the BJP and the Shiv Sena Eknath Shinde faction. And I'll go into my understanding of Maharashtra politics and what this means later. And then the second part we'll talk about Mr. Modi's visit in to US. But what do you make of this, Mohal?
I think since 2019, when the last Vidhan Sabha elections were held, it's complete chaos out there in Maharashtra. Like everybody's changing alliances, everybody's changing party loyalties, and it's completely fluid situation at the moment. I mean, who knows what might happen. I mean, last time in 2019, when Ajit Pawar broke ranks with Sharad Pawar and was willing to join hands with the BJP, he couldn't muster all the MLAs. So this time around, I mean, it's a wait and watch approach. He claims he has support of majority of the MLAs, but I mean, the longer this trends to drag on, maybe Sharad Pawar can wean back some of the disgruntled MLAs to his side, and then all bets are off.
Yeah, and I mean this image right here was I think the image of that dominated the discourse this week, which is of Ajit Pawar, Chhagan Bhujbal, and Praful Patel, and Chhagan Bhujbal and Praful Patel being the long-term allies. Here is the strange thing: both were saying that NCP had initiated action to disqualify 9 MCP MLAs, and then Ajit Pawar has challenged it and claimed that he has the majority of support. Praful Patel is appointing Ajit Pawar as the, I think, legislature chief or something, and Sharad Pawar is suspending Praful Patel and Sunil Tatkare from the party. So the question is, if they are suspended, can they name Ajit Pawar as the chief? And if they are not suspended and are naming, and there is no action, virtually no action being taken against Ajit Pawar and Chhagan Bhujbal. Now, I have to admit, I have to confess one thing. The time of recording this is 4th of July morning India time, uh, after 10 a.m. India time. After this, whatever happens, I guarantee you, we are not miracle workers that we can edit everything after it's uploaded and keep on rechanging. So people is like, "Arey, par ye to ye ho gaya," because Sharad Kaka can change his mind every 6 hours. So and so can Ajit Dada. So you never know what is happening, right? So this is madness, absolute madness. And Praful Patel said that we have decided to remove Jayant Patil as the post of party president and appoint Sunil Tatkare. Sharad Pawar shoots back saying we have decided to remove Praful Patel and Sunil Tatkare
But
from the
did
party.
you see that tweet from Shivaru from India Today, where the famous Spider-Man meme where two Spider-Mans are pointing at each other? So like
Hmm.
he had the headline saying like NCP leaders disqualifying the other NCP leaders.
This
So
is essentially multiverse of madness. So it
uh,
is it is totally an insane sort of situation. But let's look at the composition of the Maharashtra Assembly, right? And this is where it gets a little funky. So if you look at the Maharashtra Legislative Assembly 2019 elections, obviously the mandate was the BJP and the combined Shiv Sena to come to power. But then Uddhav Thackeray broke ranks, and then he went to what is the word,
MVA.
the Mahavikas Aghadi, the MVA. So right now, this is the composition of the Maharashtra Assembly, and bear in mind, this is the madness. Look at these alliances.
Oh, I mean,
So
you want more madness? I mean, see, remember in 2014 Vidhan Sabha, Shiv Sena and BJP fought separately, remember? And then
yes,
NCP abstained in the government. Many people forget, like, it was NCP who abstained to ensure that
yes,
BJP won a vote of confidence. Then Shiv Sena came together. Then
yeah.
2019, Shiv Sena and BJP fought together, but then they separated. Then Eknath Shinde broke out his rank, and now Ajit Pawar. I mean, it's just like complete madness. I mean, you can, like, if you had all the permutation combinations lined up, I mean, this would be just right up there.
This
Even
is this
Netflix.
is this is and this is the funniest statistic for me. You have Maharashtra government legislative post leader legislative Fadnavis, Balasaheb Thorat is Jayant Patil, and then group leader is Jayant Patil, but NCP is saying that Jayant Patil has been replaced with this. Of course, this is Wikipedia, but we're just laughing about how madness is. But let's look at the numbers, right? You have 105, then 40 with the Shiv Sena, which is the Eknath Shinde Shiv Sena, because Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray Sena has 17. Congress is 45, NCP is 43. So, but these are they are, you never know. This 43 number may change.
Yeah,
Ajit
yeah.
Pawar is saying he has the majority of this. So we'll see. There is the Vanchit Bahujan Agadi, the Bahujan Vikas Agadi, which is, the Hitendra Thakur's party, MNS. This is the Prahar Janashakti party with the Om Prakash Babarao Khadu. So it is, and this is the RSP with Madhav Jankar. So this is all sorts of craziness happening. The only two parties that you can ensure will never ally with three parties are the AIMIM, Samajwadi Party, and the Congress. It seems like with anyone else. NCP, it seems, is going every way. So that, given the insanity of the situation, is, as an analyst, how do you read it, Mohal? What do you think
I
this will
think
happen?
I think even if Netflix writers wanted to write a better story of Maharashtra in the last 10 years, they can't write it. I mean, I have
Yeah,
no words
it's
for
crazy.
it. Like, it's just like everybody's just changing alliances. I mean, who knows what happens tomorrow?
I personally, having followed Maharashtra politics for a while, it's first of all, it's a very complicated state. You have multiple regions, right? You have the Vidarbh region, which is the Nagpur. You have the Marathwada region, which is, where Vilasrao Deshmukh was from. Congress stronghold. BJP has made some inroads there. The Latur and not all that belt. Then you have the tribal regions of Maharashtra, the Konkan regions of Maharashtra. Tribal regions have Chandrapur and other regions. Konkan regions is, Ratnagiri, Sindhudurg, all that. And then you have the big pie of it all, which is the Mumbai, Thane, Kalyan belt, right? So given the madness that is there and the factions at play and so many political dispensation, Maharashtra always has given a split party verdict. The last time I think the a party got a full majority to come to power was, I would say, probably in the late 80s or the early 90s. I think the early 90s, the 1991 election, the 1990, I'm sorry, election, when Sharad Pawar led Congress to 147 seats. That was the last election where Maharashtra gave a
No,
single party government.
was it? But he wasn't the CM. He became the CM after the Mumbai blast. So wasn't it
No, he was not, but he was he was the leader of the
de
Maharashtra. I
facto
mean,
leader? De
de
facto
facto
leader.
leader. Essentially, he was there. Usse pehle, it was in '85. It was Vasantdada Patil who led the Congress, and Sharad Pawar had broken the Congress, and he was in Indian Congress Socialist. He was in that.
Oh yeah,
Then
yeah.
in 1990, he became the leader of the United Congress, essentially. And but at that time, Shiv Sena and BJP. Shiv Sena got 52 seats and BJP got 42 seats. And then they started, that was the first election they fought in alliance, basically. And then 95, they stormed to power, basically. And Congress drops down to 80 seats. Since that election, no party has been able to get a majority in Maharashtra. The closest that a party has ever gotten to the majority is the Bharatiya Janata Party in 2014 when they
2014,
got
122.
122 seats, right? And that dropped down to 105, which is still a very respectable performance. But that's how complicated Maharashtra is, and the Pawars have been around, and it's very difficult to get the Pawars down below 40. Even in 2014, Pawar still had 41 seats. So given that situation, this is a very interesting turn of events. I have two conspiracy theories. One, Sharad Rao Pawar has decided that he's going to play in two horses. One faction is led by Ajit Pawar, which is supporting the government. The other is by Supriya Sole. And in 2024, and I don't think he even cares about the national election. I think it's a done deal in his mind. This is what Chhagan Bhujbal said, that Pawar told him that Modi is going to come to power in 2024. He cares about what happens in the Maharashtra state elections, and that ये दोनों घोड़े पे सवार है, and depending on which party does which, how amount of damage, I think Mr. Pawar is right. That is my conspiracy theory with what he's
No,
doing.
I mean
Because
it's not that much of a conspiracy. Even like a pro-Congress journalist like Rashid Kidwai mentioned this in his article that some people allege that he is like trying to hedge his bets in both UP and NDA camp by doing this. But I mean, who knows? I mean, they're like everybody has a theory, and like I mean, there are like
correct.
so many theories floating. Some say that he might want Ajit Pawar to walk because he wants his daughter Supriya Sule to be the sole heir of his party. So if Ajit Pawar like kind of rebels and leaves the debt, maybe leaves the decks open for his daughter to succeed him, in long
Well,
term.
I mean, yes, but the thing is, if Ajit Pawar, but that was just Ajit Pawar. There is no, if Praful Patel, Chhagan Bhujbal, Sunil Tatkare walk with Ajit
Yeah,
Pawar,
yeah,
then it is
yeah.
hard to believe that they would walk without Sharad. Praful Patel has never left the side of Sharad Pawar ever. So this just seems very bizarre. And the second thing is that they are all. This is the most amicable sort of breakup divorce ever. Like they are all singing praises of each other. Oh, Pawar Sahib is my family. This is my
Oh
family.
yeah,
This is
yeah,
not
yeah,
my
yeah.
family. So
But
at this
isn't
point,
it bizarre? No, it's bizarre on both sides. See, like they are not angrily taking the names of the other side. Like they are saying, taking the name of Sharad Pawar with quite respect, and so is Supriya Sule saying like, "Oh, Ajit Dada is my like my brother," and kind of like they are not taking any using harsh words. But also interesting on the BJP side. See, like usually when a new leader comes into the fold, like Amit Shah or Modi ji or JP Nadda, like they always welcome them, but there's been no congratulatory tweet. So that's also kind of interesting that why maybe BJP is also kind of playing it safe to see, like maybe
yeah, I mean,
like
last time they congratulated him, 3 days later they had to,
yeah,
essentially
yeah.
he only
I
walked
mean,
back.
and also like Prime Minister Modi also mentioned the allegations against the NCP party like just a week ago. So if Ajit Pawar was ready to jump ship, like why bring up this allegation? There's no election coming, so it's kind of interesting as to like the statement from all the sides.
Is the Maharashtra BJP on the same side, same level as I think they are the same level
Yeah,
as
yeah, yeah.
national
They would
BJP.
be.
But I
Yeah.
think this could be a battle for the Rajya Sabha, where BJP seems that they are going to lose some sort of seats in Karnataka, having the result, or maybe in Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh. So those are the interesting battles. But the battle for Maharashtra is always going to be a very entertaining one, and we'll be here to call it as we see it and see what you say. But do write to us, and maybe we'll chime back into this part of the debate before that. But moving on to Prime Minister Modi in US, very significant visit. One of the reasons why I wasn't able to do the podcast last week was, fortunately, I was at the White House when this whole the celebration, the welcoming of Prime Minister Modi happened by President Biden, and was fortunate enough to attend the ceremony in audience, and one of the greatest experiences ever, because just the fact that the state, the two democracies, the two, one world's oldest and the world's largest, is as has been said a million times, but still, America and India, natural allies. State visit hasn't happened since Manmohan Singh in 2009. So after 14 years, you go to on the streets of DC, you are seeing the flags of India and US. There was optimism in the air, renewed sense of security amongst the Americans, that establishment as well, that the US India relationship is such that won't suffer in any political dispensation, it'll only get stronger. So given that background, Mohal, what is your analysis from the visit, and what is your take on it?
I think it's just a continuation, as you said, like no matter who's in power in DC and in Delhi, it's a continuation of the deepening of the strategic partnership. I mean, this time many landmark deals like the G414 engine transfer of, I mean, co-manufacturing in India with
Hmm.
Hull for
Hmm.
the Tejas Mark II and the future AMCA. The thing that also the ISAT, like the initiative for I forget like what the C stand for, like emerging technology.
Hmm.
I mean, cooperation in emerging technology. There was a new forum started to, and it is actually led by the two NSAs. So to help development of how to co-develop emerging technology and have deeper partnership. Also there, I mean, it was a pretty long joint statement of like 58 paragraph, and interestingly the quad featured on the first paragraph, which I think like will not sit well in Beijing for sure. I mean,
Hmm.
they always think like that India is a pawn in like the US game to destabilize China, or like keeps China unbalanced at all times.
Hmm.
So I mean, it was like a um, I mean, it was like many people say like the relationship has reached an inflection point. I mean, we signed all the logistical agreements like Comcasa, Becca, and Lemoa, and now we are like a much valued strategic partner. Not of the, I mean, we are obviously not a NATO ally, which will never become, but quite a important partner in the years ahead.
Hmm. No, I agree. I agree. Absolutely, I agree that is for true. That is there for sure. But also, what is interesting for me on all this was not just the defense cooperation, but even in the statements, Mr. Biden talked about Quad very thing. He essentially made a talk about China. So that was very very interesting that he chose to give that strong statement. He made that statement about Russia's unprovoked war in Ukraine, and of course, I mean, we didn't make the statement in Russia, but it was a sort of a shared consensus respecting India and US's individual positions. His Prime Minister Modi's address to the Congress was received very well. One thing is for sure, that strategically, I think the noise that was created outside, that noise has disappeared. People were trying to boycott and protest and stuff like that, and they were trying to do some very small protest. I mean, you couldn't see any protests after outside the White House when the celebrations were going off. They were probably a few blocks away or something, or at least I didn't see
No, but
them
I mean,
wherever
see,
I was standing.
but protest, I mean, happening like since like the 80s, like even like when Indira Gandhi visited the White House, there used to be like 10 or 12 token protests at the United Nations or we outside the
No,
White House.
no.
So I
My
wouldn't feel like.
point is not that. My point is that they over amplify their reach on that. They have allies sitting as global opinions in Washington Post, and many Ranas of this world, and all of them helping them. But the problem
or,
is,
or
by
Christians. Or Christians.
yeah, but they basically and they don't even do anything. They just basically, what they do is they just subtly retweet them, and spread, basically give or try to give credence. At least it doesn't work, but that's my point. I was like, ultimately, what are you trying to destabilize? If you have a political problem with Mr. Modi, take it up politically. This was a state visit where a official government to government thing, and it was so irresponsible for that on that. So I think that is the most important thing. But apart from that, Mohal, let's look at the larger picture here, right? Where does this put India? Where does this put India and US? He said, Mr. Modi said jokingly, AI is artificial intelligence, or also America and India. You think that this is going to start a new sort of thing between US and India in terms of defense cooperations, or no?
I mean, it's the relationship is always like deepening. I mean, see,
Mhm.
uh, short of like US troops landing at the LAC and fighting for India, which is never going to happen, right? I mean, they're going to do everything to support India. I mean, even during the recent, like not the recent, I mean, now it's like 3 years since Galwan, but during the standoffs with China, like they were doing
Mhm.
intelligence sharing, and even like I think some special geoanalysis share information also shared with India. So it's like like कि
Hmm.
वो गली का गुंडा है, उसको फेस करना, हम तुम्हें ट्रेनिंग देंगे, इंटेलिजेंस देंगे, शेयरिंग देंगे, आपको प्रोटीन शेक देंगे, आपके लिए ये करेंगे, जिम की मेंबरशिप लेके, पर हाँ लड़ने हम नहीं आएंगे, बेसिकली दैट्स लाइक we'll do everything short of fighting. I think that's what the relationship is at, that will give you
Hmm.
information, training, sharing, intelligence. If you want the latest weapons, yeah, I mean it helps our domestic politics because I can keep the factories running in the United States. So they also see like India is the is the largest importer of I mean, or one of the largest importer of weapons. So, and they also
Hmm.
want to wean away India from the Russia relationship, because they see that Russia is like one of its key pillars of agree. I mean, India and
Hmm.
Russia, we don't have much bilateral trade other than what do you call, like oil and gas and defense. So if
That's
they can
right.
wean
Hmm.
away, that would be another feather in the cap. I mean, we are not like almost, I would say, like some might quibble with this, but almost like a major non-NATO ally. We are kind of, I mean, a major NATO ally kind of state. But obviously, we don't have an Article 5 where if US is attacked, we are going to. I mean, if US is attacking Guam, let's say, God forbid, by China, then we are not going to go fight in the South China Sea as a treaty ally. Or
Correct.
if the
That's
Chinese
right.
come across the LAC, they are not going to come. I mean, we are never going to have boots on the ground per se, in India. Like we won't have like marine stationed on like in our ports, or soldiers positioned on the LAC, unlike other
Hmm.
some other allies.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that completely. But let's look at one interesting thing that happened. The official and total dehyphenation of India and Pakistan, which we've been saying since time immemorial, कि वो तो होना ही था, कि I don't think they are going to ever, it's been a while that it's all done and dusted, but people were refusing to look at that will happen. This time Pakistan was not even mentioned, except for Indian media who was trying to hype it up and stuff.
नहीं
Uh,
नहीं, पर
but
जॉइंट स्टेटमेंट में है, दे मेंशन ऑल द टेररिस्ट ग्रुप्स इन पाकिस्तान, एंड दे डिडंट से द नेम पाकिस्तान, बट
yeah,
आई मीन
yeah, yeah.
where लश्कर है तैयबा इज
No, no,
बेस्ड
no,
आउट
no. But I'm saying, no, 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 no. I'm saying, ठीक है, mention किया, it's good. But I'm saying
ऑफ.
the leaders don't even care about talking about
हाँ, या.
that, except for the Indian parts of the Indian media who are hell bent on talking about it. And I'm like, छोड़ो यार, ठीक है. Talk about it when you have to talk about it. If you keep on harping it, it doesn't become an issue anymore. People just get bored, and you don't want to get bored because there's some genuine questions about it. And raise it at the appropriate time or raise the appropriate questions. But one interesting thing I want to ask, because this is Mr. Obama's statement. What do you make of those
I
when
mean, I tweeted about it, like, see, like, just jokingly, like, like half jokingly, like, कि थोड़ा मोदी जी के लिए थोड़ा ज़्यादा प्यार प्यार लव लव हो गया, थोड़ा अब को I mean, we have to show him his place kind of thing. So this was more for domestic politics, like, for the Rashida Tlaibs or the Ilan Omars of the world. Like, I mean, they were protesting
or
like
maybe
the
it was to show
abuses.
Mr. Biden also that I'm still very popular in the Democratic Party.
Nah,
One theory
I
was
don't
that
think so.
also.
But see, but even like later on, these statements, like when they were asked in the press conferences, uh,
Hmm.
the the spokespersons, like, they kind of brushed it off. I mean, they didn't want to be irritant in the overall ties,
Of
so they,
course.
they,
Hmm.
they didn't like give much credence to it. It's like kind of like, I mean, the funny word would be like monkey balancing, but like the Democratic Party also has some far left constituents, right? I mean, to appease them, it's for the domestic audiences. Like, I mean, talking about India breaking apart, I mean, that's kind of that brings up the horrors of partition to many in India. So it's not like the best way to articulate, even if they wanted to make a point politically.
Hmm.
But I mean, I wouldn't give much credence to it. I mean, see, even when Biden was sworn in, a lot of people were fearing the worst for the relationship. I said, like, no. I mean, even me and Kishore, we are on our India Rising podcast, we are mentioning that overall the relationship is in a very healthy place. No matter who comes, there will be obviously this from time to time, some noise in the
Hmm.
media, maybe in India or in US, who will like generate the most TRP, the most clickbaits. But I mean, the relationship is much bigger than this. It's for two domestic. हाँ, मोदी जी के लिए दो तीन शब्द बोल दिए तो पब्लिक खुश हो जाती है, but it doesn't carry that much weight in the strategic circles. I mean, if you ask somebody in the State Department or in the Department of Defense, I mean, I don't think they would give that much credence to such statements, because I mean, their bigger worry is China. I mean, US. I mean, I don't want to go to the history, but like they're allied with many like non-democratic regimes or dictators, whatever you
Hmm,
call
hmm.
them, for the larger strategic goal. So the goal here is China. So I mean, they look past like whatever. I mean, I'm not saying like Modi has made transgressions, but like whatever they think in their mind is the transgression, they will look past it for obvious reasons, because the China is the largest strategic
Absolutely.
threat. You know.
Absolutely. No, and it's also, yeah, telling people, yeah, theek hai, just okay, relax. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it's not a big deal. And quite frankly, I actually have another problem at this, that Obama ne to jo bola wo bola, right? When Mr. Biden comes here to India, or any leader, what stops the Indian media from asking the same questions? Ask, no, about the Black Lives Matter protests in US, or the whole question about the Antifa thing, and you don't have to take a position. Ask the president questions. What is happening? Why are there protests? Are there racial divides? There are certain problems that are systemic in US. And are there, what are the solutions? What is the position? If you read the solution is never just to tell, because any country is going to look out for this. And I'm not defending them. Some of the statements made by, especially when Mr. Obama talked about balkanization and stuff of India, was absolutely ridiculous and irresponsible. As even though, he may have contextualized it with whatever the hell, you're talking about a democracy, and he was trying to equate somehow China and India, which was quite preposterous in that. And Christiana Monpur, of course, never pushes back, uh, never pushes back, so she just let him drone on and on. But my point is, what stops the Indian media from asking these questions? Or the Indian leaders? Indian media was doing community shows and doing shows from grocery stores. I mean, all sorts of things when they were in US. Jao na jaake yahan pe events, do some research. Rather than, it was lazy journalism that was happening. And I'm not blaming everyone. It's the resources are also a constraint. But some of the things I saw, if you were there for the 3 or 4 days or something, go find Indian Americans and talk to them about these important issues rather than just community issues.
I think given time, it will all happen. I mean, in due course of time. I mean, if you think about it, like even like when Jaishankar pushed back during the Ukraine crisis, like the interests of India and stuff. Like, I mean, no foreign minister had done that. So I think even like we heard some noises like about the Pew poll, like where a lot of minorities in India like are free to practice religion. I think of something as 98%, which was much higher than satisfaction with the minorities in US. So I think some people have been bringing it up. I'm sure like eventually like Amy, I mean say like in bureaucracy in India is like it's hard to change on a dime, right?
Hmm.
Eventually they will
Hmm.
like bring up these issues, and as like India grows as a bigger country, I mean they will also start asking like uncomfortable questions to the
Yeah,
US.
it's not even to cause uncomfortable questions or something. It's just to say that, yes, in the spirit of having a democratic conversation, if one side is going to ask questions, the other side is also going to ask questions.
Yeah,
Let's just
yeah,
make it as simple as that. But
yeah.
that's my sort of perspective on this. But what are your, in closing, before we move to a little bit of sport action in our podcast? What are your statements? What are the key takeaways from this visit for you?
I think I'll just say it again. Like it's just like a ever deepening relationship between India and US. I mean, some people, as I said, like have called an inflection point in the relationship. I think, as Prime Minister Modi had said, like
Hmm.
in his last visit to the US in 2016, like that India and US have overcome the hesitations of history. So I think we are on a new path forward to a ever
That's right.
deepening relationship. I mean, and also I think the major thing is like a lot of noise was created when Ukraine war started, like about the divergences in foreign policy. So I think P- India and US have learned to keep aside the differences on it, and even like thorny issues like Ukraine can be kept aside, and the relationship can keep growing in spite of differences. I think that's also important to note over the last 1.5 year.
Absolutely. So that is, I agree with that. I agree with that completely. And I think one thing is for sure. One thing is absolutely for sure, that this is a this is a watershed moment. And I'm not saying in watershed moment in that, in terms of significance of Mr. Biden, the commitments that were made, the continuation of many things. and the ignorance of certain statements made even by the ex-president Mr. Obama. um, when it comes to this, this was a good step ahead. So I think fascinating times wait. But let's move our attention in the last 10-15 minutes of the podcast when before we to cricket. And cricket is because we talked about India losing to Australia. I've done ad nauseum, I've done various podcasts on World Championship, so please do read, please do watch those. I've done across channels. But the Ashes is going on and the spirit of cricket is being debated now.
Mm-hmm.
Because Mohal, do you want to talk to our viewers about why we are talking about it?
Dekho, spirit of cricket you always invoke when you are on the receiving end of a decision,
Absolutely.
or when you get the other person out. It's always, oh, it's within the laws of cricket. So
Hmm,
डिपेंड नहीं
hmm,
तुम कौन सी साइड पे हो, स्पिरिट ऑफ क्रिकेट आता जाता रहता है.
exactly. So basically, can you explain what happened? Why was this even discussed?
So in the recent Ashes test, what happened is, I believe it was Johnny Bairstow, right? Yeah, he was
Johnny
batting
Bairstow.
and he ducked into a bouncer. I believe it was from Pat Cummins, if I'm not
Hmm,
wrong.
hmm.
And
Maybe
after
him
the
or Cam Green, either or. Yeah.
yeah. So after the a bouncer went harmlessly past his head.
Mhm,
I mean, whatever, like what his intentions were, like he ventured outside the crease. I mean, and he didn't
mhm,
look back at the keeper at all. And the
hmm,
keeper, Alex Carey, he threw the ball, he had a shy at the stumps, and he broke the
mhm,
stumps while Bairstow was out. And the
hmm,
Australians appealed, and like by the letter of the law, I mean, Bairstow is out because the ball is not quite dead at that point.
hmm,
So
hmm,
the English were upset that, oh, he was just like going down to maybe garden the pitch, as they say in cricket, or like tap the wicket or whatever you want. And the
mhm.
Australians said, nah, it wasn't a dead ball at that point, so it's kind of all fair. I mean, and there's quite a bit of controversy. I mean, even I mean, in Lords, you had to walk past the members in the long room up to the what do you call, the not the pavilion, the places where the players sit. What do we call it? The dressing rooms. So there was also controversy that
The
some of the
members. That's
MCC,
right.
yeah. So like it's quite a long walk. I mean, if you look at the video, I mean, it's an interesting thing on YouTube. Usually you think that, oh, it's coming directly from the dressing room down the stairs, but they go through the. So some of the MCC members like were kind of booing and shouting at um, the Australian players, and I think Khwaja and I think Warner got into like a bit of a verbal tiff with some of the members, and I think their three members have been suspended. The last we read, so it's become like a full blown controversy. Even like the UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has said like, oh, it wasn't in the spirit of game. So I think, talking of international relations, I think do we have a full blown crisis? I guess on our hand, Adit, right, based on cricket.
Yeah, yeah, and we don't. It's so stupid because the question is. I mean, I saw it live actually happen, and I'm like, I had two reactions. This was a brain fart from Johnny Bairstow.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe what Australia did. I initially I didn't like it, and I probably wouldn't have liked it to do it personally. But I don't know how people would react in the heat of the game. The question is, I see no difference from this as running out the non-strikers, and which it doesn't sound for backing up too far, which these idiots in England and Australia try to blame one of India's finest all-rounders for that. And I will refuse to sully his name by calling it that. So it's called running out the non-strikers. And if at that point the non-strikers were Billy Brown, so we'll call the how Billy Brown was dismissed. So anyways, my question is, if that it's the same thing, so it doesn't look good. I'm like, oh, do you want to do it that way, part of few things, but then you then there are clips floating around where England did
Yeah.
the exact same thing to
Yeah.
other players, Australia did the same thing,
Same test
so
match.
it's not a new thing. Yeah, so I
In the
mean
same test
there are
match.
no, not even that, there are other clips like before, like 20, 10 years, 8 years,
अरे वो
7
भूल
years.
जाओ. Somebody shared a clip in this same test match. Bairstow, who is the keeper who got out, is having a shy stump when Labuschagne is walking, or is like in Labuschagne had his foot behind the side. He didn't hit the stumps, but he's having
Hmm.
a shy at Labuschagne. I mean, I'm guessing it's either this test or the last. I think the same test match or series. you are doing this and
Hmm.
then the other guy does it, बोला कि नहीं नहीं ये गलत बात है, ये ऐसा नहीं करना चाहिए.
हाँ, दिस इज द क्लासिक, वो पता है गली में जिसका ग्राउंड और स्टंप होता था ना, वो स्टंप लेके भाग जाता था. दिस इज लाइक दैट. एंड सिली, बट एंड व्हाट द सैड पार्ट इज, इट टेक्स sheen away from one of the best innings I've ever seen Ben Stokes play. And I've seen him play a lot of innings, on TV, obviously. But my God, what a crazy knock it was! And he almost got close to the quality of cricket played. This Ashes has been one of the best in series I've seen. It probably should have been 1-1 had England not had their brain fades in the first Test match as well. But the teams have been evenly matched, and it's been a phenomenal series. So I hope that English fans and stuff stop whinging and put this behind them. You can't just have it both ways. The Mitchell Stark catch was controversial as well, and for God's sake, you're professional cricketers. Don't just wander off in the crease, yaar. तुम park में नहीं टहलने निकले हो. So
I mean,
that's pretty
how
much
do
my
you how do people not know? I mean, when you're playing like cricket for the country, so you played like club cricket, you played county cricket. Like, I mean, you're supposed to
correct.
know that after the wicket keeper passes the ball to the other player, it's kind of dead ball,
Mm.
because then there's no intention of having a shy at the stump. I mean, this is like known to like people like us, like who don't even like play any kind of professional cricket, and we are nowhere near their level, and we still know the rules. So it's kind of just like
Exactly.
a
So I'm just
brain fade.
correct. It's just quite crazy what they are talking about it and stuff. And it's I'm just to be really honest, I think it's just insanity if you think about it.
Yeah.
So um, so here is the thing. Let's move from there to what does the future of Indian cricket look like to you, in test match cricket? Are you as exuberant about it? I mean, IPL, T20. um, I'm a huge supporter of it and stuff. But is it, we always seem to have this question, is it undermining test cricket, or should we just have multiple teams and then have those teams focus on those sort of
I
categories?
mean, always good to have like a white ball and a red ball team. I mean, it doesn't need to be like mutually 100% exclusive. But yeah, I mean, if you have
Mhm.
like maybe 20-30% overlap or even less than that, it's good. I mean, if you have some young player, I mean, I would like, let's say, who would be a good example today to who would play like a Siraj, right? I mean, technically he's young, he could play like all formats. But let's say if somebody is in the
Mhm.
Hardik years, or like, I mean, forget Bumrah's injury history, but let's say somebody was like 28, 30 plus, then you might want to like keep him for one fresh for one format and not have him injured with overuse. So
Correct. So that's the unfortunate issue that India is facing. So I'm just hoping that even there are rumors are like Ajit Agarkar is going to
yeah,
do
so
be the
you are
director,
asking what
chief
is your
selector, I'm
hope.
sorry.
I mean,
Hmm.
is there hope for Indian cricket? So I say Ajit Agarkar is our only hope, because none of the other selectors want to get rid of the non-performing seniors.
Yeah, exactly. So one just hopes that that is how it is, and let's see how that works. But unfortunately, or for Indian cricket, I just hope that there are good people there. And I hope, like, right now Pujara unfortunately has had the bad sort of situation on that. But he's been at the receiving end. Rahane thankfully has been spared, but then he's back as the vice captain. So
I
I have
mean,
no
like,
idea what they're
I
trying
mean,
to.
we thought like that Ashwin might be a good stopgap captain like for like 2 years, like how Kumble was, but they just went in a completely other direction. I mean, like it's mind-boggling some of the decision by selectors. I mean, for good or worse, okay, whatever we do in the ODI World Cup, I think maybe selectors have to move on from Rohit. I mean, I don't think they'll be playing in the next ODI or even the 2020 World Cup next year in West Indies. So I mean, even like possibly Kohli and stuff, I mean, they might have to move on for some of the senior players. I mean, unless they retire them, we are never going to give chance to like the young lot like Jaiswal or Sarfaraz Khan, and like the Abhimanyu Ashwaran
Truly,
group of
truly.
players.
So, exactly. So I mean, that's unfortunately how it seems like the case. And I hope Jaiswal does get a chance to play, but whatever happens, we'll be here to cover that. Right now we're running short of time, so didn't I mean maybe we'll do a sequel to this to discuss what the India's once India starts playing. Right now the Indian players are on a much deserved break, but I think next week same time India starts playing its first test match in West Indies, which I always look forward from a time zone perspective, because I can watch most of the thing if I'm in because we are on other
Yeah.
this is on this side of the hemisphere, so to speak. This side of the globe, I should say, not the hemisphere. But Mohal, any recommendations you have for our folks that you've read, watched, seen, that you want people to do?
So I'll give like a few recommendations. So for one, I'll go a little bit retro. Since the
Mhm.
flavor of the week has been Chacha Bhatija, I'll recommend the old Hasina Maan Jayegi movie, if you know like what I mean. I mean, Paresh Rawal in like one of his classic comedy roles of
Yeah.
Chacha Bhatija. So jokes apart, I mean, I just had to like put the Hasina Maan Jayegi. I mean,
Yeah,
it just reminded me
जो
of the
चाचा
Chacha.
जो चाचा है वही भतीजा है.
I mean, isn't it like apt? Like, people think now there's only
Yeah,
like one guy pulling the strings in Maharashtra.
truly true.
Anyways, so another, I think you also put out this on your Twitter. Like Jubilee is another fantastic series on
Mm,
Amazon Prime, which I mean, kind of they are alluding to couple of actors in the yesteryear. And actually, I mean, I didn't know one of them. Uh, Background, and it was interesting like how he was a lab assistant and how he got his break into movies. It was kind of interesting. I think it's like a semi-fictional. I don't think everything in that series on
mm,
Amazon Prime like Jubilee is like kind of true, but it was fascinating to watch. I mean, and trying to, I mean, the fun part, as you know, I was trying to decode ki bhi ye actor kaun sa ho sakta hai, trying to Google up
mm,
and research like. And other one I'll say like is a show on Netflix called The Days. It's about the Fukushima disaster. It's like a 8-part series. So it details in like very detail in all like quite technical detail. Like, I mean, recreation, like what were the events and how the reactors kind of melted down, and like all the disaster they were unfolding, and all the back and forth between the electric company and the operators and the government. And I mean, it's a dubbing in English, but it's like pretty good, I would say.
absolutely. It's, I think, a Netflix show that I saw. I actually, my recommendation would be an Apple show that I just started. I've just started. Actually, I've watched season 2 of it. It's called Slow Horses with Gary Oldman. It's a
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
fantastic show.
yeah, yeah,
It's,
yeah,
if you're any spy thrillers and anyone who basically likes a little bit of fun watching the show, it has an amazing dark sense of humor, but outstanding writing and
yeah,
great performances. So do watch that, but do also watch what Mohal says. Mohal said, do write to us, do subscribe to India Rising with Mohal and Kishore, and please write to them about what you agree, disagree with them. I'm sure they'll do a detailed discussion on the foreign policy and the detailed aspects of the Indo-US visit. But we'll be back next week with more. Till then, it's goodbye, and thank you so much for watching. And if anything changes in Maharashtra, because you never know, by the time we recorded, something might have changed. So if anything changes in Maharashtra, do write to us. Maybe we'll do another updated. I think last time we did one with Smita Deshmukh, when the Shinde situation. I mean, maybe we'll get her on again and discuss with her. We'll have a variety of guests. There's a lot of possibilities. But here's one thing I'm going to say: we'll be here to cover it all and give you our spin on it. So thank you so much for joining, Mohal. This has been truly a lot of fun discussing this.
yeah. Thanks, Adit.
Thank you, and we'll be back soon. Thank you, guys.